Welcome everyone to this evening's Ordinary Council meeting of the City of Kwinana. I'd like to call upon Councillor Barry Winmar to present a welcome to country.
Thank you, Worship. I begin by acknowledging my elders past and present and acknowledge that tonight's meeting is held on Wajak Noongar Boodja. Ngalak nyining kura and kura ngalak noich nija Noongar Boodja. Noongar mut jerp and yining dinya ngalak wabadak Noongar Boodja kuralong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Jinijan karajan jerpan nijawer Noongar Boodja ngalamaya maya border. Look, listen, understand, and embrace all the elements of Noongar country, because this is forever our home. Kai wanju ngan court jerpan nija Noongar Boodja dajli wangani Noongar Boodja. Hello and welcome. My heart is happy as we're gathered on Noongar country and meeting here on Noongar country tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Winmar, and I'd also like to respond by acknowledging that we meet here on the land of the Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Call upon Councillor Michael Brown to read the dedication.
Thank you, Your Worship. May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve. Thank you.
Noting that our CEO is away, I think for another 2 weeks, so we have Mr. Doug Elkins as our acting CEO. We have one late apology this evening, and that's from Councillor Dennis Wood. We have no members of the public in attendance. We have nothing on item 6.1.2.3. Item 7.1 is a confirmation of minutes from our ordinary council meeting held on the 10th of May. Would somebody like to accept those minutes? Thank you. Moved Councillor Rouse and seconded Deputy Mayor. Anybody wish to speak to those minutes? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 7.2 are the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 26th of May. Would anybody like to speak to those minutes? If not, we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor S. Wood, seconded Councillor Brown. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 8, declarations of interest. Would any councillors or officers wish to declare an interest?
Yes, thank you, Worship. I have impartiality interest in 17.1 as I'm a member of the JDEP that will be considering that item later in the month.
And thank you. I also have an impartiality interest on item 17.1 as a member of the Joint Development Assessment Panel. Thank you. Are there any requests for leave of absence? There's nothing on item 10 through to 16 that I've been made aware of. Item 17.1, noting the impartiality interest of Councillor Rouse and I. It's a Joint Development Assessment Panel application for a childcare centre on lot 17 to 120 Brilliant Boulevard, Mandogalup. Are there any questions of the officers on this application? We have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that way? Moved Councillor Winmar, seconded Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Winmar, do you wish to speak on the item? Deputy Mayor. And petrol stations. Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.1 are our accounts for payment for the month ending 30th of April. Are there any questions of the officers on any of those accounts? If not, would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Rouse, second Councillor Winmar. Councillor Rouse? Councillor Winmar? Anybody wish to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.2 is an amendment to our ordinary council meeting to be held on the 12th of July 2023. Are there any questions? It's a relatively straightforward item. If not, would somebody like to move the recommendation? Moved Councillor Estwood, seconded Councillor Kearney. Councillor Wood or Councillor Kearney, do you wish to speak? Anybody wish to speak against? Shall I put it to the vote? All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.3 is a proposed disposition by way of a lease for 62 to 64 Sloane Drive Leader to Young 2013 Proprietary Limited as trustees for the Young Family Trust. Are there any questions? I note there is a confidential item attached to this.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Just have a question in relation to, and I'm not sure if any of the officers will be able to answer, but hopefully someone might be able to give it a go. What the original rationale was around taking what was the Leader Community Hall and leasing it out to this group, Your Worship.
The officers able to...
That history is probably some time ago, so I have to take that on notice, Councillor Feasy.
I thought it was an after-school care centre there for a while.
That is what it is currently, Your Worship. It's an after-school care provider that's part of Little Rascals, I believe. So I guess my second question then would be, obviously that facility was, as I alluded to, the Leader Hall, which was a space that the community could lease as they do with other community spaces. Just wondering, like a 5-year lease, whether that, I guess it is a market lease, what, I'm not sure really what I'm asking.
Do you wish the lease period to
Well,
be
yeah, I guess whether the
less?
lease period could be less, or whether whether it was considered that continuing to lease it out was the most appropriate thing, or whether bringing it back into make it available to the community again would be a far better option, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are you able to respond?
Yeah, so currently it's a 5+5, so obviously a 5-year lease with a 5-year option. So Little Rascals currently lease that facility, and officers view that as a positive use at this point in time. So we didn't entertain bringing that back to the community to have as a community use bookable facility at this stage. So obviously that was a recommendation to have that as a lease to Little Rascals.
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry,
Sorry.
just following on, because I think Deputy Mayor raised an interesting point there, and I don't believe I saw it in the documentation, but other than being the use for the Leader after school, has any other community groups been using it? Do we have any evidence of this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh,
Mrs.
okay.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Winmar, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. And just to continue and refresh, there was nothing in the report in saying that there was any other future options or anything considered to another community space for residents of Leader to be able to have activity spaces for other organisations in the community. I didn't find that in the report. If there's officers could just expand on that.
Through you, Your Worship. As Councillor Feasy alluded to, it's an exclusive lease. So obviously that building will be leased to Little Rascals to use for out of school hours care. At this point in time, there will be no other use for that in that facility.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. It's just been pointed out that in recommendation 1, it is just a authorisation for public notice of proposed disposition. So if there was any, not meaning to get into debate about the item, but if there are any objections, then I imagine the officers would bring that back. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I guess it's kind of a similar question to Councillor Winmar's. However, I guess ultimately, because it is a council facility, and I do get that Little Rascals are currently renting that facility, whether it would actually be appropriate to advertise the lease in a way where other community groups had the opportunity to actually bid for the lease, I guess. I note that Little Rascals also lease a building owned by the city in Budden Way across from Medina Primary School, operating very similar before and after school program. And I also acknowledge that after the city closed our before and after school service that ran from the Aquatic is a much needed service for the community. I guess ultimately this want to make sure that we are giving everyone the opportunity to access the space that could, Your Worship.
Thank you. Mr Elkins, are you able to respond?
Yeah, through your worship. As pointed out by the Mayor a minute ago, we are advertising for the purpose of, so we're asking council to give us the ability to go out and advertise. So it is for the purpose of public notice that's required by the Act so that we can progress a lease. But if any other group had interest in it, it's through this advertising process they will flag that and then we would bring it back to council. But at the same time, if there's no other interest, it means we can just progress and finalise this so that the current tenant has certainty as to what's happening. Based on the conversation tonight, we'll ensure we word the advertising in such a way that it's clear that if there's alternate uses that might be suitable and worthy of consideration, that they should make it known to us during this period, and then we can consider that and bring it back to council if that's the case. But if not, we'll be able to progress through the lease process.
Are there any questions or anything arises from that explanation? If not, we have a recommendation. Thank you. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Winmar. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak any further on this item?
I guess this is briefly, Your Worship. I'm happy to support it to go out to advertising. I guess, you know, with this do need to be clear that Little Rascals is a private enterprise making a profit. As Councillor Winmar did allude to, there are a number of community groups that currently have no home within the city that are kind of vagrants, I guess, Your Worship, using spaces they can find it. So I guess ultimately if something else comes out of the woodwork through the advertising process, it would be good for a community group, Your Worship.
I think you probably meant that a bit nomadic.
Actually, sorry, can I just ask a question, before I officially sit down? Ultimately, if this facility is leased, I just wonder where the 15,000 per annum would actually go. Would this go into the city's general reserve? And I guess if that is the case, I wonder whether we could flag it being spent in the community of Leader, being that it's as a result of them losing a community facility, Your Worship.
Through you, Your Worship, in our budget it's just shown as a $15,000 income, and I guess it would be for council to identify $15,000 as a project for Leader. What we can't do is identify money specific to a suburb or a ward. We're not allowed to do that, but we can certainly identify a project that council might want to pursue to an equivalent value.
And not necessarily in Leader. Thank you. Councillor Winmar? Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. 18.4 is the quarterly performance report for the Strategic Community Plan and our Corporate Business Plan from January to March. Are there any questions arising from the report? I do note that there are just a few little red dots, but they are is a good explanation in relation to those. So we're doing well with mitigation. Thank you. Would somebody like to move the report? Move Councillor Winmar, seconded Councillor Rouse. Councillor Winmar, do you wish to speak on the item? Thank you, Councillor Rouse. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. And I really just again like to reiterate to anybody that doesn't think there is anything much going into this on in the city of Kwinana, please take the time to have a look at some of our documents, and this is certainly one of them, one of our key documents that outlines what we've been doing in the quarter and how we're progressing. So I thank the officers. 18.5 is our May budget review. Are there any questions on the recommendation or the item? If not, we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor S. Wood, seconded Deputy Mayor. Councillor Wood, would you like to speak on the item? Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Just briefly, Your Worship, just to acknowledge the staff's putting together this review, which is a fairly intensive process, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.6 is our monthly financial report for April 2023. Are there any questions of the officers? If not, we have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that way? Moved Councillor Winmar, seconded Councillor Rouse. Councillor Winmar, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Rouse? Anybody wish to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. There's nothing on item 19, 20, 21. So item 22, reports of elected members. Deputy Mayor.
Just briefly, Your Worship, I attended on your behalf the Sorry Day event in Medina, which was sponsored by Wooditch Court. I also attended with most of the councillors the opening of the official opening of the Kwinana South Fire Station. I'm sure you'll cover that off in your report. And I also attended the Senior Citizens AGM, where they have an almost new committee. And after 32 years, Pat Gamage retired, Your Worship, from the Senior Citizen, and they put on quite a great function the week before to acknowledge her service to the community, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'd just like to just reiterate the council's point, and especially my point being an ex-serving police officer, about the community tragedy that everybody was during the week, and I'm heartfelt condolences to the families and all those serving officers that have got families still in the job. It's everyone's right to return home safely from their place of work, and unfortunately in tragedies like this, it brings the Blue family together. I've had a few meetings with former colleagues over the week or so, and the reiterating message is that we're to ensure that we've got dedicated members of our community that are out there that are willing to serve in various ways of law enforcement, especially when it comes to council enforcing the bylaws that we've been sitting in the past. And as I said, just on behalf of myself and to those families and serving members, condolences and rest in peace to Constable Woods. Attended the Nulla Yoga Wankan Community Day, which was at the hall, and represented yourself, Madam Mayor. It was a community gathering event. There's some good numbers that were there. It was a very entertaining event, and there was a lot of good feedback from the community. Unfortunately, it had to be relocated to the Medina Hall due to inclement weather, and I think that didn't dampen the spirits of people that attended that event. Also attended the Bullamara Advisory Group. We had a meeting during that week as well. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry. So since our special council meeting in May, I took part in the judging panel for this year's Lyric Awards. I continue to be blown away by the achievements of young people in the city of Kwinana, and it's a real privilege to have a role in recognising their efforts as part of the Lyrics Award selection process. I look forward to joining fellow councillors, city staff and community members in celebrating... I look forward to joining fellow councillors, city staff and community members in celebrating our nominees and winners at the Lyric Awards evening next Tuesday. Alongside councillors and city staff, I also attended the Kwinana South Volunteer Fire Brigade Station grand opening, where we celebrated the new facility, heard about how it is going to improve the experience and preparedness of our volunteers, and also heard stories about the brigade's history and journey to where we are now in 2023. I commend the Kwinana South Volunteer Fire Brigade for their amazing efforts and everyone involved to date in making this new facility a reality. And last weekend, I also volunteered at the Frank Konechny Community Centre's Bunnings Sausage Sizzle fundraiser, where the team were very brave in putting me to work on the barbecue. Until that day, I'd only ever been a customer of the Bunnings Sausage Sizzle, so to be on the other side of the table to support the centre and their activities in supporting the Kwinana community was a real privilege. In total, the Sausage Sizzle raised $2,772.30, an absolutely awesome effort and a significant sum for a good cause. Well done to everyone who volunteered on the day, and a big thank you to everyone who came down to purchase food and drink on the day.
Well done. Well done. you. Councillor Wood.
Along with several other councillors, I was down at Medina Hall as well, and it was a very well presented and enjoyable day down there, and it was lovely getting to talk to people who were down there and listening to Councillor Winmar's band up on the stage. I didn't know they were all so talented, his family. I also had the privilege of attending the official opening of Kwinana South Volunteer Fire Brigade's new building, along with several other councillors. The building was specifically designed for the volunteers' needs and is very user-friendly, which I'm sure is very much appreciated by all the volunteers. We also celebrated the arrival of the Fire Brigade's new fire truck, which has several new safety features and will now fit quite comfortably in the new fire station. Along with Councillor Kearney, I participated in the Disability Reference Group Committee meeting. As usual, it was a very productive meeting, and I believe Councillor Kearney is going to give you more information on that.
Thank you. Councillor Kearney.
Okay, so I went to the lithium plant and got lost going there because there's no signage. Attended the emergency service sundowner, also the reconciliation day. Toured the Margaret Court Outreach Facility today, which was my second time. It was nice to meet Margaret Court.
Oh, she was there.
Yeah, it was a lovely morning. Now the Disability Reference Group that I did with Councillor Wood, we have the Easy Beat Disco Working Group, which is run in Mandurah, and we're hoping that we can follow that up. And it's a group that you go to and like the local, and you go together so that you feel comfortable with people you know. It's so it sounds really good. Russell, our co-chair, is doing You Can't Ask That podcast. So any questions you'd like to ask on disability, he's going to answer. We are investigating the City of Kwinana for an app. Also, the accessibility doors at the Kwinana Aquatic. The events policy and framework for accessibility for the disability. And Claire Gibellini is one of our members. She's the Environmental Health Services, and she was on her way. She didn't attend last week because she was on the way to the UN to talk about people with disability. So it's an honour to have her on our committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. There are no answers to questions which were taken on notice. I have tabled my mayoral announcements as just a few. Hard to believe it's 4 weeks since our last meeting, because I've got down that we also had the citizenship during that time with 46 new Australians. And some of the other ones attended. I also attended the senior citizens function and thanked Mrs. Pat Gamage for her long and loyal service to the club for over 30 years. I also was invited to attend the senior citizens. I think they're trying to wind me up to be a member. I don't know all these invites. They had a special tea at 2 event. They had about 20 ladies there, and they had a special guest, high tea with Harriet, who was an exporter of longleaf tea, and she went into I learned so much about the difference between the different teas, the different lengths, how to make the best cup of tea. I even bought some in a teapot, so it was actually a lovely, lovely event. I thank you for the invitation. In company with our acting CEO, we attended a meeting with a Maori elder, Mr. Warangi Paki, to discuss the storage opportunities for a ceremonial canoe called the Waka, and it's returning to Perth at the end of June. It's significantly crafted by Maori people, and it was sent to Victoria on parade, I suppose. It's been away for several years, and it's in a 25-foot sea container, and they're trying to find a place for it. So we've made a few contacts to see if they can help out the Maori community with this significant cultural canoe. Again, as several councillors have mentioned, we went to, along with our Emergency Services Minister Stephen Dawson, attend the official opening of the Kwinana South Volunteer Bushfire Brigade Station. It's been a long time in the making, and it's just really great to have those facilities and to have a tour around. And I think it's just, anything that we can do to make our community safe and of course the handing over of the new appliance, which I believe they've had it for a couple of months now, but it was great to have the Minister out there to do the official handing over. And of course that same week we had our annual emergency service bushfire emergency services sundowner. We had many of our community emergency services people on hand. It was a really great social night of networking, and I think most of you were there, and it just gave us again as a city an opportunity to pause and thank the emergency services for everything that they do in our community and beyond. Because as we know, for example, the State Emergency Service have been called out to go to Adelaide, they've been called out to Queensland, they've gone up north with the floods, etc., and of course looking for missing people. So we're very blessed to have those services in our community. I'd also like to take the opportunity to congratulate the Welga President and Darren Shire President Karen Chappell on being awarded an AM at the recent King's Birthday Honours Award. A great acknowledgement of her service, not just to the Morrible community, but also to the services of local government and beyond in other areas that she participates in. With other invited guests, I attended a reception on the back deck of the HMS Tamar, which is moored at Garden Island. It was part of the AUKUS Alliance. The Tamar's been there for I think 2 weeks, got another 3 weeks to go before it sets off, and it actually doesn't return to its port in UK for 5 years. So obviously the staff will go on and off, but the ship itself will just keep continuing going on where they can't tell us it's going, but it's going around somewhere. And I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Barry Winmar, who attended to present another great welcome to country. And, oh yes, of course, it's remiss of not saying since our last meeting, things have changed significantly on the political landscape. We now have a new Premier and a new local government minister. So I'll just let you know that I did write on behalf of the city and thanked outgoing or former Premier Mark McGowan for his services to the state of Western Australia. And we've also sent a letter of congratulations to the new Premier, Roger Cook, and how great it is to have the Premier living in the city of Kwinana. And also we've got a new local government minister, David Michael, and I look forward to working with David because he was a junior. He sat on state council with me for about probably nearly 10 years as a councillor for, I think it was Stirling, or yeah. And then he went on to his political life as the member for Balcatta, and it's great that we've got someone who has a really good working knowledge with Welga and local government, and in fact he sat and chaired the local government review, so that's great. Now, before we conclude, we've had a few exciting announcements amongst the staff, so I shall hand it over to our acting CEO.
Yeah, so it has been a pretty big week. We have won a few awards this week. I'll tell you about one and I'll ask Mr. Fisher to tell you about the other one. So the one I'll tell you about is the city was the winner of the Australasian Management Challenge, which is a challenge of local government in Western Australia. It's a Western Australian competition. We've been in it for many years, and this is the first time we've taken first place. And just to give you an idea of the level of competition, the next two positions went to some very big councils, Mandurah and Wanneroo. We had a second team in, and they would have been very close to the top three because the scores across all teams were very close. But it's a representation of the skill and the dedication of our staff, but also the culture of our organisation, where it's a group of our a lower level than coordinators, so our normal day-to-day coalface staff coming together across our organisation, working as a team to deliver in this competition. So the next stage for this team is to go to Adelaide and to represent the whole state on the national stage.
Well done. Mr. Fisher.
Yeah, so just to add to Doug, I think that's a testament to a lot of hard work we've put in regarding leadership and culture at the city. So I know over the last 2 years we've invested a significant amount of money in leadership training and that sort of thing. So it's good to see that we had 2 teams compete so well. And I just want to make you aware of an award for Jessie Carter. So she won the awards at the Parks and Leisure Australia Awards. So she won the Emerging Leader Award. So very hotly contended, those awards. And it's a testament to Jessie, obviously coming to the city, working for the city for the last couple of years, and has progressed through the hierarchy now as well. So obviously came as an officer, and is now the community planning coordinator at the city. And she's a young woman that's bright and obviously someone that kind of brings people together well. And engages with our community well as well. So, and if you speak to any of our community groups, they'll probably know Jessie. And obviously that's the work she does in bringing people together and do that sort of thing. So, a great award for Jessie, and obviously it was a significant week for the city with lots of awards. So, so it's a great achievement around the board.
So on behalf of the elected members, could you please pass on our congratulations to the team? And of course to Jessie. I actually received a text message from Simon Beaumont from 6PR just to tell me about Jessie winning the award and that how well she spoke at the ceremony in accepting the award. So well done, great things being done at the City of Kwinana. So look, there are no confidential items, so therefore I shall declare the meeting closed at 6:01 and thank you for all your attendance.